I'd like to talk about, again, when I first came in, I was a mechanic. I was with 2nd Maintenance Battalion, and we had a lot of females in the unit and stuff like that also. And there's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to approach this, I guess. I don't like the fact that people say there's like a rape culture in the Marine Corps or in the military in
Mm-hmm.
general. It's not something I
Mm-hmm.
experience. Obviously, I'm a male and stuff like that. But from being
Right.
around, working with females and stuff and in those units, it was nothing I really ever saw. There was moments where it was like, hey, bro, she's drunk, you're drunk. Let's kind of maybe not do that. I mean, I can only remember one time that I ever told a guy like, nah, you're going to your room and she's going to her room. Like that's the way it is. Can you speak for the female Marines that are out there that have these concerns? There's a lot of stuff about females in the military, and people are concerned about females being in the military because it sounds like everyone's getting raped and killed and all this other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So this isn't something I've had a whole lot of experience with because most of my career wasn't around female Marines.
Yeah.
Those first couple of years I was in Okinawa was when I was around the most other female Marines. And in that time, there were a couple of sexual assault allegations, one of which that was true. I don't know what came of the other ones. You did kind of see that culture towards certain women, if you will. And I had a friend in my battalion. I won't name her or anything, but there was an incident where a platoon sergeant was groping her and sexually harassing her, and I watched her mental health just deteriorate daily as she tried to keep this in. And at the time, speaking out wasn't it's still hard today, but it was really kind of those you don't say it, you don't talk about it, you don't bring it up to anybody. It happened. It was kind of a hush hush thing. And
But what causes that though? Because I've never
I
felt that about many things. Again, I'm a guy, so it's a different
Right.
world, obviously. But did the command influence like kind of feel like that, or what was the reasoning for that kind of thought process?
I think it's just the stigma that's out there for these girls. I think a lot of these girls feel like if they say something, the male Marine community is going to bond together and be like, well, she made it up, and they're going to have each other's back, which in some instances is true. But I don't think that's to generalize that'd be wrong to say that's how it is in the community. But I think there's a stigma that goes around that if they say something, they're just a crybaby. They're a whiny female Marine. Oh, that's a typical female Marine. So a lot of them bottle this up and they keep it inside because they don't want to be labeled as that, or they don't want to be seen as the girl who's, causing a scene and making drama in
Mm-hmm.
their unit. So a lot of these girls, what I have found, will do restrictive reports, and they really just kind of request to be moved to another unit or another command. It's a lot of them don't want to go through with an actual unrestricted reporting
Mm-hmm.
and bringing people up on charges because they want to avoid that scene, or they want
Yeah.
to avoid those labels.
Okay. Now, I see this as similar to what colleges across the U.S. see. It's one of those
Mm-hmm.
things where they also have that same problem where, there's the rape culture stigma or label that gets put on it and stuff like that.
Right.
Do you think something the Marine Corps and the military is a reflection of society? So the unfortunate part of that is there's going to be murderers in the Marine Corps. There's going to be rapists in the Marine Corps. There's going to be pedophiles in the Marine Corps. It's just one of those things. Do you think it's something we can ever get rid of? Like that's something that can be, I think that for me, I think the biggest thing that we could do is take away that stigma. Say like, hey, you can come out and say something. Like if I was a platoon sergeant and someone came to me and told me that, I'd be like, what the fuck? That would be obviously a super
Yeah.
serious thing. I can see because it's a direct reflection of society that there are probably some scumbags out there that are going to take it and try to sweep it under the rug. I don't know. What do you think? What can we do better about that?
Yeah, I thought about that a lot lately. And I'm going through the process to get into a fire department right now. And one of the things that they do is the psyche bell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this in the car the other day. I was like, you have to sit down, do a polygraph on some of these departments, or you even just have to fill out a brutally honest questionnaire and they talk to you about it. And they even do these tests where like 100 questions of what would you do if you see this?
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought when you see this? And they're trying to get this psychological baseline on you and figure out who you are. And I realized that we don't really have anything like that in the military. We have the ASVAB that just tests your general knowledge and intelligence, and then you have MEPS obviously that you go through, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't really do a huge psych eval on you.
No, not
And
unless there's a
honestly,
reason.
yeah, and honestly, if you don't put anything on paper, they're not going to look into it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the gap there, and why you see some of these people making it into the military, is I just don't think we have a good psychological background screening. So until something like that changes, I don't think we're ever going to get rid of, these bad apples, if you will, making it into the military. And that's unfortunate, but yeah, you're right. It's a reality. We are still humans. We are still products of our society. There are bad people in the military, whether we want to admit it or not, even though
Mm-hmm.
they are a small percentage. But as long as we have this kind of fast, push them through process, I don't think it's something that's going to change.
Yeah. Just like there's bad doctors out there, there's bad teachers
Right.
out there. It's just it's a tough thing. It's like, how can we? I know what you're saying. I think a psych eval maybe one of those steps that may help out. I actually had to get a psych eval when I came in because I've never talked about this on the podcast actually, because I got arrested twice before I joined. I was trying to join. So the first time I went to the recruiters right after September 11th, and then later that year I turned 18. I was a senior in high school, and then I got arrested having weed, and I was like, fuck. And then a year later, I was having a going away party for my buddy I was supposed to go to boot camp with, and our party got busted and I got arrested again. So when I actually got all my court shit cleared up and went down to MEPS, they made me go see the wizard down there and sit down and talk to him. And like you said, unless you put anything on paper, all that never would have happened. That was all legal record. Exactly. So it was something that kind of had to happen. And I went and talked to him, and he delayed my entry for another year. He was like, hey man, I got to make sure you can like stay out of trouble. You've been arrested twice. There was alcohol and drugs involved. So I'm going to delay your entry for a year. And I was super pissed. And I was like, man, but that's probably not, you're right. That's probably not a bad step. Maybe not necessarily everyone go see a psych, person to get evaluated, but actually have some kind of format, forms and stuff that maybe we can kind of weed some of the people out. I don't think it's a problem we'll ever get rid of. Just like we're never going to get rid of like alcoholics that are in the Marine Corps. We're never going to get rid of drug addicts that are in the Marine Corps. It's just one of those things that people are going to slip through the cracks, unfortunately. But
well, and another thing is you have to look at the demographics of who joins the military, what parts of the military they join. And something, in my experience, where I've seen in a lot of parts of the Marine Corps, I feel like I was one of the more fortunate people that joined the Marine Corps. I met a lot of my friends come from some rough backgrounds and some rough things that they've had some trauma from their childhood. And, how people, whether they dealt with that or, how they're dealing with that, some of those things come out later, especially in your military career. If you've been, involved in some other sort of traumatic event, some alcohol, some depression that kind of comes out, you see in your service time. I think that kind of initiates some problems. And then we start seeing people kind of do things they shouldn't do or commit crimes that they shouldn't be committing, Yeah. So I think it has to do with kind of a background thing too.
It's a weird dynamic, it's a really weird dynamic. I think one thing that we need to do is stop with this like zero defect mentality. Like people are fucked up, people do stupid shit, just like Lance Corporals do stupid shit. It's going to happen. You can't expect that they're not. And I think if we can all come to agreement with that, like, hey, there's going to be issues, let's be honest with ourselves. We can never get rid of everything. And sitting down once a year and doing a PowerPoint presentation isn't going to solve anything. Like, then we can start making actual progress in some of those issues.